Hey everyone, welcome back to Web3 Deep Dive Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Wolfson. In today's episode, I'll be speaking with Dean Skurka. He is the CEO and president of WonderFi. In this episode, we'll be speaking all about regulations in Canada, about how retail adoption for cryptocurrency has increased over the years, and much more. Super excited for this episode, so get ready. Before getting started with today's episode, I also want you guys to take the time to like and subscribe to the channel, especially if you enjoy the content that you're seeing today. I want you guys to stay up to date on everything. Okay, without further ado, let's get started with today's interview. Hey, Dean, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing? Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining the podcast today. It's so great to speak with you, and I'm so excited to learn more about WonderFi today.
Absolutely. Yeah, look forward to it.
Right. So, Dean, before getting started, you're the CEO and president of WonderFi. Is that correct?
That's right.
Cool. Okay, great. So what is WonderFi?
Yeah, it's a great question. WonderFi is Canada's largest cryptocurrency ecosystem, publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange under this ticker WNDR and in the US under the ticker WONDF. WonderFi has created the largest ecosystem for cryptocurrency in Canada. We have two cryptocurrency trading platforms that we own and operate today, being Bitbuy and CoinSquare. We have consolidated 5 crypto trading platforms over the last 2 years, bringing the user bases from the 3 into Bitbuy, creating operational efficiencies and economies of scale. We also own and operate SmartPay, which is a crypto to fiat payment processor that allows merchants around the globe to easily accept crypto for the goods and services that they offer.
Wow. Okay. So that's a lot. We'll break that down in a bit. Can you kind of explain what the goal behind WonderFi is?
Absolutely. WonderFi's goal is to provide diversified exposure to investors across the digital asset ecosystem. We understand that the cryptocurrency ecosystem is vast and new to many people. And through our public stock, what we're looking to do is allow investors to easily gain access to a diversified exposure across this ecosystem. We have a core concentration with crypto trading platforms. As mentioned, we've acquired over 5 of the 11 regulated crypto trading platforms in Canada. Through those consolidations efforts, we have over 1.6 million Canadian users, both retail and institutional. And through our SmartPay business, we really offer our investors exposure to a new and exciting segment within the crypto industry, being crypto payments. It's something we're really enthusiastic about. It's something that we believe is going to continue to grow in the years ahead. And we're really excited that we have a brand that can provide exposure to that exciting vertical through SmartPay. In addition, we have certain investments that provide a lot of value to WonderFi shareholders. We are the single largest shareholder in a company called Tetra, which is Canada's only qualified custodian to custody digital assets. We think that positioning for them in the market creates meaningful opportunity for long-term growth. And as their largest shareholder, we work closely with them to extract synergies and create value between the businesses that we operate and Tetra as a custodian. We also have certain investments that have created additional value for shareholders. This year, we mentioned that certain investments that we have on our balance sheet generated over $10 million of cryptocurrency, which increased our treasury to over $50 million at the end of Q1.
When was WonderFi established?
WonderFi was established in summer of 2021. Things really started to evolve with the acquisition of Bitbuy, which was completed in March of 2022. From that point forward, the company's plan was really to continue to consolidate crypto trading platforms operating in the Canadian market to really establish ourselves as the leader in the crypto trading segment in Canada. By creating this position and creating the economies of scale that we have with over 1.6 million users and $1.5 billion of client assets on our platforms, we've really provided the business with a firm ability to create revenues, create trading volumes, and really establish ourselves on the global basis as one of the leaders in the industry. Now, looking forward, what we'll look to do is take that experience and that infrastructure that we've developed into new markets. We announced this year that we'll be launching in Australia, and that'll be the first of many international expansion plans that we'll look to undertake in the years ahead.
Got it. So I want to break everything down a little bit. So how would a retail investor get involved with WonderFi? Like, what are the steps that they would take?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from the trading platform side, you would sign up with either Bitbuy or CoinSquare, which are two of Canada's largest crypto trading platforms, longest serving crypto trading platforms. CoinSquare has been in the Canadian market for over 10 years and has one of two licenses by the highest bar of investment industry, within the investment industry in Canada, Ciro, which was formerly IROC. And so if you think about, in many respects, some of the largest crypto trading platforms globally, like a Coinbase or a Binance, you would onboard in much a similar way. And so we have very strict KYC AML policies and procedures that we follow. And once a consumer or institution goes through the process of onboarding through our platforms, they're able to deposit either fiat or digital currencies and buy or sell depending on what they're looking to do or what activities they're looking to pursue. And in addition to, we recently launched staking, which really allows Canadians to buy assets, stake them on the platform, earn rewards, and then look to sell them when they're ready to.
Mm-hmm. So this may sound like a silly question, but I want to better understand this, and I want my listeners to understand this. What is the difference between WonderFi and a crypto exchange? Like, why would a retail investor want to use WonderFi versus just putting their assets on Coinbase, for instance?
Yeah, it's a great question. So WonderFi, through its crypto trading platform, CoinSquare and Bitbuy, offer two of the only regulated crypto trading platforms globally. When you think about the various jurisdictions on a global basis in this industry, very few of them have created a regulated framework around crypto trading platforms the way that Canada has. So Canada, on a global basis, is far more advanced from a regulatory perspective than the rest of the world. And so what that means for platforms like ours is that we're held to a higher degree of regulation than most platforms. We work very closely with our regulators to establish a clear balance between innovation and consumer protection. We have a long-standing relationship with our regulators. These platforms have been regulated for more than a few years. And really what we have done is establish that trust and transparency that our users are looking for. We understand that this is a very new industry. We understand that there are, unfortunately, as a result of that, there have been many examples of platforms that have abused clients' trust and taken advantage of their users by engaging in nefarious activities. Through CoinSquare, which has been established for over 10 years, Bitbuy for over 8 years, we have really focused on platforms and brands that really embrace that trust and transparency for our users. And so we have, strong technology and a really seamless, easy to use product. We have, significant track record, and we have a clear and concise plan and business model around regulatory compliance that has really allowed us to establish these platforms the way we have. Moving forward, as we look to expand globally, we are looking for those jurisdictions that not only have clear and concise regulation, but at the same time, high levels of adoption and crypto, being embracive towards crypto. Again, you look at Australia, has one of the highest adoption rates globally for cryptocurrency. That, in addition to the clear regulatory framework that exists in Australia, made it a really compelling market for us to target. And so when you think about WonderFi's platforms, Bitbuy and CoinSquare, you really associate them with trust, transparency, and regulation. And through that, we've been able to establish ourselves as one of the leaders in the market globally.
Right. And so has WonderFi launched in Australia yet, or are you going to be launching there soon?
We announced that we'll be launching there in the second quarter of this year. So we'll be launching there very shortly.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming there's no plans to launch in the United States anytime soon?
Well, I'm not going to make any announcements here, but again, we look to when we look towards global expansion and really building on the success that we've created thus far. The U.S. is obviously one of the more attractive markets in terms of the overall opportunities, And that is a market that we are focused on in terms of better understanding how and when we will expand into that market.
Yeah. So that actually leads me into my next question. Can we talk a little bit about regulations in Canada versus regulations in the United States and how those differ and how, I mean, it's interesting. I feel like Canada is always adopting things before the United States and then we'll adopt it, like the Bitcoin Spot ETF. They've got an Ethereum Spot ETF. So let's talk about the regulations in these regions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, Canada, in many respects in this industry, is a first mover with respect to regulation and products and services. You mentioned the Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs. Those launched in the Canadian market about a year and a half prior to the US ETFs. So, a first mover in that respect. When you think about crypto trading platforms like CoinSquare and Bitbuy, the ones that we own and operate, again, Canada is a first mover and in a unique position when you look at the rest of the world. Canada really developed a regulatory framework dating back to, I believe, 2020. Bitbuy was the first marketplace to be licensed through that initial framework. The framework included an evolution of a 2-year process where it would effectively shift from one regulator to the other. So CIRO, which was formerly IROC, is the governing body for traditional financial services in Canada. And so that is the higher bar that all of these platforms have to go to. And so there was a very clear framework, which was an important first step to protect consumers in the Canadian market. And when you think back to 2022 and all of the unfortunate platforms and unfortunate examples of bad actors that we had to live through, you think about FTX, Voyager, Celsius, the list can go on and on. None of these platforms were operating in Canada. We think that is a really strong reflection on the regulatory environment that Canada created that really emphasized consumer protection. You think about jurisdictions outside of Canada, and they're still looking at ways in which they can embrace similar regulation. And so, in many respects, Canada has been a leader. You think about some of the benefits of a clear and concise regulatory framework. We're mindful of the consumer protection that it has created for users in Canada. We think about the signal it sends to a broader audience to feel comfortable and actually embrace these assets and under these currencies and understand that there are safe and trusted platforms to use that are regulated the same way traditional financial service platforms would be. And when you think about WonderFi having consolidated 5 trading platforms over the last 2 years, as a public company, having that regulation behind these platforms has made that consolidation far more of an efficient process. And if you think about a public company looking to acquire trading platforms that do not have the regulation in place that they did in Canada, it would have been far more challenging, and it would have given shareholders less assurances over the business models. And so when you think about investing in WonderFi and you think about investing in cryptocurrency trading platforms, a lot of the risk is mitigated by the fact that these are regulated platforms, that our business models have been approved by principal regulators in the Canadian market. And that really provides comfort to investors to look at our businesses and understand that the business model we have in place has that comfort of being regulated, which means there is little concern from a going concern perspective that these businesses are set up in a way which will allow them to continue to grow.
Right. In terms of regulations, can we talk about what Canada has done that the United States has not done yet, or what they're doing that maybe the United States would want to in the future?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, it all starts from a priority perspective and prioritization. I understand, there is a lot to regulate it with respect to the broader financial services industry. And while, I'm right in the middle of the crypto industry and I want things prioritized and dealt with in real time, there's a lot of priorities that regulators have to deal with outside of this industry. But what Canada did was effectively say, okay, we're going to put a framework in place that may not be perfect or the final form, but it is going to serve as a starting point. And it's going to serve as a starting point to help provide assurance to the businesses, the entrepreneurs that are looking to build products and services within this industry in the Canadian market, and at the same time protect consumers from a new asset class and a new industry that, due to its popularity, could entice bad actors to emerge. And so the Canadian, what I'd say is, the Canadian regulators prioritized regulating this asset class, which I think is the first step. They put out consultation papers. They work closely with platforms like ours, entrepreneurs that understood the industry, to understand, what they were getting right and what needed more explanation and a proper balance. And, that really led, like I said, to the regulatory environment that we're in now. Now you think about the regulation that was in place. Initially it covered spot trading only. And so you think about the industry and how quick it moves and all of the additional products and services that are, in demand on a global basis. And it's really important for platforms like ours to continue the dialogue, continue to work with the regulators to say, well, it's really great that we regulated spot trading, but if you think about the entire industry, you think about staking, you think about decentralized finance, you think about NFTs, the list goes on. If you regulate one component of the industry, you're really going to create an environment where they go to Bitbuy or CoinSquare to buy crypto, and then they send it to other platforms offshore to conduct in some of this other activity. And so while we were excited by the initial step where the regulation came in and created a balanced and fair playing field for both platforms like ours and consumers, we really wanted to ensure that it continues to evolve. And so when you think about Bitbuy and CoinSquare, when we both launched staking, Bitbuy launched about a year ago, that was, again, a result of working with regulators and regulators having a firm understanding that this industry is larger than spot trading. And to protect consumers, you need to create as much of an environment for the total ecosystem as opposed to one component of it. And so having received the licenses to launch staking with both Bitbuy and CoinSquare, a product that we launched and has performed really well for us, we want to continue to work with regulators and look to those next products and services that our users are looking for. Margin and derivatives would be two examples of products and services that are incredibly popular and valuable on a global basis in the industry that are not regulated in Canada. And so if you had to think about it, what that likely means is there's a lot of Canadians finding ways to use offshore platforms that are unregulated to conduct these, activities. And so for us, we really want to bring that all onshore on regulated platforms that provide a ton of comfort to the users and also to the regulators, in terms of, consumer protection. And so I think, truthfully, I think it all starts with prioritization. You think about what happened in 2022 in the US, obviously the high profile case with FTX. In many respects, I believe that will, light a fire under regulators to really come together to find, the right balance here and put some regulation in place. Obviously, you think about the US being in an election year. And as I mentioned, in terms of priorities, maybe crypto is not at the top of the list, but it's definitely moving up the list. And unfortunately, in some cases, it may take an FTX and a Voyager and a Celsius to push it further up the list. But ultimately, this is an industry that is here to stay. It's been incredibly resilient. It's continuously grown in popularity. Adoption rates continue to increase. And, it's a matter of time before larger markets like the US really find that balance and bring regulation on a federal basis that really allows the market or provides the market more clarity, which will bring back a lot of activity and businesses to the United States. You think about over the last year and a half, there's been a lot of good platforms, good projects leaving the US market because of unclear regulation. All of these platforms understand that the US is the largest market opportunity for them, but they are scared to bring their products and services into that market because of the lack of regulation in place. And so, you talk about innovation, you talk about growth and development within this industry. We really believe that regulation is an important step. Now, you think about everything I've mentioned, and then you think about the successful ETF launch that happened in January in the US, that's going to be another catalyst where, you start to see the institutionalization of this asset class. You start to see the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity, and Franklin Templeton really starting to support this industry. And, that will really help, in my opinion, move the needle with respect to regulation in the US. And I can't help but believe when that day comes, you're going to see a massive reaction in the market. You're going to see a ton of competition enter the U.S. market. You're going to see platforms come back that had previously left, and that's a net benefit to the consumers. It keeps them better protected. In terms of not going to offshore unregulated platforms to conduct these activities. And it'll really provide a better overall experience. The competition will lead to better pricing, better experiences, and better products and services. And, I'd say the biggest thing Canada did differently was just prioritize a regulatory framework for this asset class.
Yeah. Did the Spot Bitcoin ETF approval in the United States impact WonderFi's operations at all? Or was it just completely unrelated?
Yeah, indirectly for sure. And so you think about, our businesses, they generate revenues off of trading volumes. And so for us, in a world where there is anticipation of this milestone Bitcoin ETF approval in the US, and the price of Bitcoin in Q4 is going from about 25,000 up to about 40,000, that drives a lot of attention back to our platforms. You think about, just sort of in terms of some of the numbers, WonderFi trading platforms generated 500 million in trading volumes in Q3. You think about Q4, which is really where the expectation that these ETFs would launch in January of 2024 really started to take effect. And Bitcoin, like I said, ran from about 2025 to 40. We generated about $800 million in trading volumes, significantly increased from the quarter prior. And then you think about Q1, you think about the launch of the product, and then the success of these products just by way of $12 billion plus of inflows in the first quarter alone, that drove our trading volumes north of $1 billion in Q1. And so you're really starting to see the impact of these ETFs. From a credibility perspective, I can't help but think about, a year like 2022, where we're talking about the failures of the industry, the long-term viability of the industry with the likes of, again, FTX, Celsius, Voyager, et cetera. Towards the tail end of 2023, we're talking about BlackRock, Fidelity launching ETFs, building out this industry, really creating, far improved credibility for the industry, really improving the overall sentiment across the board. And then, of course, through the launch and the success of these products, putting a ton of pressure on the price of Bitcoin to the upside. And so the ETFs have had an incredible impact on the industry. We think that trend continues meaningfully throughout the rest of the year. We think the success of these products is going to fuel these providers to launch Ethereum ETFs, structured products, and continue to invest around the industry. And we can't help but think the institutionalization and the maturation of this asset class strongly favors WonderFi, creates an incredibly favorable backdrop for our businesses to continue to grow and find success.
Definitely. What are your thoughts on the upcoming halving? Is that also impacting operations at all, or do you think that's driving the price of Bitcoin up?
Yeah, absolutely. Historically, that's led to, a ton of excitement and a ton of price appreciation. Certainly within a year where there's in a year where there have been Bitcoin ETFs launched as successfully as they have thus far, in a year where there is a halving, creates an incredibly favorable backdrop for the industry moving forward. You think about, at a minimum, what these halvings create are excitement and awareness, and create and maintain or create Bitcoin being more top of mind for a larger audience of people. It continues the conversation. The conversation really picked up momentum in Q4 of last year around the ETFs. The conversation has shifted to the successful launch of these ETFs. As mentioned, with 12 billion plus of inflows in Q1 that is in many ways more than many analysts expected for the entirety of 2024. And so when you think about the last 2 quarters and how the narrative has shifted for Bitcoin, the overall sentiment for the industry has shifted, can't help but think, that in a halving year is incredibly favorable for the industry. I know a lot of people are excited. I know many people are very surprised that we surpassed all-time highs prior to the halving, whereas historically, it has been 6 to 9 months after halving events we've seen all-time highs. Again, we think the ETFs, the halving, and the expected catalyst moving forward the rest of the year really create a favorable environment for cryptocurrency platforms like ours, and we'll really continue to maintain momentum across the asset class. And so we're excited about the upcoming halving. We're trying to raise awareness across our user base in terms of what the halving means and how it's going to create more excitement for the industry moving forward. And we think that it is one of many catalysts looking forward that will continue to propel our businesses.
Definitely. Is it more retail investors leveraging WonderFi or institutional investors, or can you just kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Our trading platforms have, I guess, been built historically as primarily retail platforms. You think about, someone coming in and using the web or mobile app and, sending in $20, sending in $100, a few $1,000s. That's been the backbone of these platforms dating back to when CoinSquare launched 10 years ago or when Bitbuy launched 8 years ago. But what both of these platforms have done really well is build up an institutional arm of their business. We have a retail segment, like I mentioned, and then the institutional segment, which is more of a white glove service that caters to high net worth individuals, mid-market corporates, family offices, businesses that accept or use cryptocurrencies. And that segment of our business has been able to grow quite meaningfully over the last few years. As I mentioned, most of these platforms really started as retail platforms. And so if you think about the early years, you're talking about 90% retail volume as a percentage of the totals. Last year in Q3, WonderFi was 65% institutional, 35% retail. So you think about, periods where, retail, is less excited than they are now, as an example, or as they were in 2021, as an example. That institutional volume and client base really allows WonderFi to continue to grow in periods where retail is more, flat. And so you think about the shift to where we are now. Our institutional business is continuing to grow, but retail is growing at a much quicker pace. Retail, really does come in waves. Right now, we are seeing that impact when retail really starts to come back to the asset class, whether it's, retail clients that signed up 5 years ago, 2 cycles ago, last cycle, checking their portfolio for the first time in a long time. You think about net new participants that heard about crypto last cycle, and now they have the conviction that it's back and they're looking for platforms to utilize. And so you think about the shift, in terms of the overall percentage of total. And so retail's gone from 35% of a percentage of our overall total trading volumes in Q3 of last year to 47% at the end of Q1. And you're really starting to see that retail volume pick up. You think about some of the activities outside of Bitcoin. You think about the excitement around Solana. That's really heavily driven by retail. And you think about some of the other sort of pockets within the ecosystem, like meme coins as an example, whether it's Doge or Shiba Inu or Pepe or a coin like Bonk. Those are strong retail signals, in my opinion. Over the last few months, we've seen a really strong uptick in volumes across meme coins, across altcoins. And we think that's a really strong, healthy signal of retail trading trending in the right direction. And so we cater to all different segments of the industry, whether you're a first-time buyer, whether you're a family office, whether you're a Bitcoin ATM company, as an example, that needs a liquidity provider. We try and cater to as many participants as we can within this industry. We're focused on providing those clients with the tokens that are in demand and the tokens that they're looking to trade. We have a wide range of tokens, over 50 tokens on our platforms that clients can come in and utilize. And we think, identifying new projects that clients are interested in and being the first in Canada to roll them out will help create value for WonderFi long term. But as I've mentioned, we really have the products and services and tools to cater to as wide an audience as possible with respect to buying and selling digital assets. As I mentioned, at a pure retail level with our mobile apps, which are very intuitive, easy to use with simple UI, or you're leveraging our APIs for algorithmic trading or for liquidity servicing for your Bitcoin ATMs, as an example. We really cater to as wide of an audience as we can, leveraging the products and services and understandings that we've built up over the years.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I'm based in the United States. It's too bad that I can't use WonderFi because it's not here in the United States. But is
Not yet.
there? Yeah, not yet. I'm hoping soon that, and be sure to tell me first before.
Absolutely.
I want to break the news. It could be, here, Cointelegraph, cryptonews.com. Keep me in mind.
Yep.
But what I was going to say is there an equivalent to WonderFi in the United States that you would say that you think is equivalent?
Yeah, I mean, look, we think that we have Canada's largest ecosystem with 1.6 million users, $1.5 billion of client assets on our platforms. Q1 we had over $1 billion of trading volumes on our platforms, generating about $18 million of revenue. And so we think we are the leader in this market. As I've mentioned, we are looking to expand into newer markets, identifying jurisdictions where we can find success and really leverage all of the regulatory, marketing, technology that we've developed, skills and experience that we've developed. I'd say in the US, you look to that market and who is the clear market leader there, it would be Coinbase. And
Coinbase, yeah.
you think about what we've built up in Canada. We've acquired over half of the regulated crypto trading platforms in this country. And as I've mentioned, through a variety of KPIs, we are quite firmly the market leader here. And so, in many respects, the Canadian Coinbase would probably be the fair comp.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to listeners wanting to get into the cryptocurrency space and they haven't yet, but they're wondering what are the best steps? Maybe these listeners are in Canada. So what advice would you give to them to just get started?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think getting started is the first hurdle. When I speak to people, friends, family, I really encourage them to start by buying, very little amount. And I know a little amount means different things to different people. But really, once you buy an amount of Bitcoin, you will find yourself more interested naturally. And you start following the ups and downs. You start learning more about what's driving those movements. You start learning about the differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum. You start learning about the difference between Ethereum and other alt layer ones like a Solana. You start learning about layer twos. Like, you become more invested, obviously, but more inclined to learn. And, this industry is vast and there is so much happening at such a rapid pace that it's almost hard to keep up with. But because of that, it's very easy to fall in love with this industry and stay, current once you sort of start learning more. Understanding the basics is incredibly important. And, I find people are far more encouraged when they've invested, even if it's a very small amount of money. You think about, you buy a little bit of Bitcoin and then, you start scrolling, checking the prices. Next thing you know, you're waking up every morning to check if you're up or down. You start learning more about other assets. It really, people say it's a rabbit hole, and in many respects it is. But it really, in my view, first-time participants or people that are new to the asset class, education's important. I'd say the next biggest thing is understanding the jurisdiction you're in and the platforms that have a long track record and have a history of compliance and have demonstrable regulation in place. You think about everything I just said about learning about the industry, starting to feel more comfortable with it, starting to learn about different assets and all of the excitement. And then, you use a platform like FTX and you lose your money, well, that's really going to hurt and probably disincentivize you from continuing to invest in the industry or continuing to learn more. And so really understanding that the platform you're going to be working with is your partner. In many respects, it's like picking a bank account, picking a stock brokerage. You really want to do your homework and understand where you're sending and safekeeping your money. And I think once you've understood the basics of the industry, once you're willing to invest a very little bit and understanding what platforms you want to use, depending on what jurisdiction you're in, from there, I think it's pretty organic to see people build up an interest and really get excited about the long-term prospect. I think about the overall industry in the sense of, what are we trying to accomplish on a overall basis? You're talking about improving financial services, largely using decentralized technology, finding improvements where you can, and you think about the digitization of money. You used to have to write a check. Now you have a credit card or a debit card. Now those credit cards live on your cell phone. Like, the world is clearly becoming more digitized. Money is becoming more digitized. I can't help but think blockchain and decentralized finance will eventually play a bigger and bigger role in that process. And stepping back, it's easy to point to different sound bites from crypto. It's a scam. It has no, whatever whatever people want to point to. But I just can't help but step back and say, okay, this is an opportunity to invest in a more digital future. Clearly, that trend has already begun. And to what extent blockchain and decentralized finance will play a role in that clearly creates the opportunity. But I can't help but think it is more likely than not that we continue to trend towards a more digitized financial services industry, which will utilize blockchain and decentralized finance in some capacity.
Yeah. So you mentioned meme coins. Just out of curiosity, do you have any favorite meme coins or any that you want to mention? I'm always curious to know this. I don't know much about meme coins. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I can't say I know too much more than you about meme coins, but what I do know is that they have a firm place within this crypto economy and this crypto ecosystem. It's easy to make a joke about them. It's easy to dismiss them. When I look at our trading platforms, I think about the opportunity that we can create by having these coins and allowing people to participate and not being dismissive and trying to select what assets our clients can and shouldn't invest in. Right? I know just through crypto Twitter that people are making life-changing money every day through meme coins. Now, that doesn't mean they are a viable investment for everybody. And I would certainly encourage people to do their homework and understand what meme coins even means prior to investing. But they are a real part of this industry. And like I mentioned, WonderFi, through our trading platforms, we want to represent as much of the industry as we can to allow our users to access as large of a variety of this ecosystem as they want. For us, simply offering Bitcoin and Ethereum would be underserving our clients. Allowing them to invest across the ecosystem in many respects, provides them a regulated ecosystem, regulatory compliant platform to experiment with the wide variety of digital assets that exist. And so for us, it's important to have as large an offering as we can to provide, to try and represent as much of the industry as possible. As mentioned, in the last few months, we've seen a really strong uptick in volumes across these meme coins. They represent about 7 to 10% of our trading volume overall. But again, you think about market cycles like the one we're in. Typically, you see Bitcoin run really hot, and then you see that those profits flow into Ethereum and Solana and other larger cap crypto coins. From there, you really start to see those profits flow into meme coins and smaller cap coin projects. And so really understanding those cycles will allow us to capture as much trading volume as we can. And for us, we're also mindful that if we don't offer these meme coins as an example, our clients will simply come to us, buy Ethereum, send it to a offshore unregulated platform to buy and sell these assets, which creates a ton of undue risk onto Canadians and to our users. And, for those reasons, we think it's important to list as many projects as we can that are within the regulatory framework that we live within and really provide as wide an offering as possible. For me, I mean, there would be way too many meme coins to really start diving into which ones I like or why. But I certainly recognize that they have a real role in this
Yeah.
crypto ecosystem.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Good to know. Dean, just out of curiosity, did you come from a traditional financial background before entering the crypto space?
I came from a corporate restructuring background, so loosely traditional finance. My prior experience, has helped certainly from the M&A perspective of these, this WonderFi's growth, really integrating these businesses, identifying synergies. Obviously, when you're in more difficult market environments like the ones we've been in past cycles, some of that experience has certainly been helpful. So ish.
Yeah. Okay.
TradFi-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. I'm just curious. So I know we're running low on time. So what can we expect next from WonderFi aside from Australia?
Yeah, look, WonderFi will continue to grow and invest in its crypto trading platforms today and look for expansion and continue to build out our, long-term objectives, which include, going into new markets, continuing to offer new products and services. And so, in Canada, you can expect us to continue to launch new products within our regulated trading platforms. And we're really focused on margin and derivatives being the next two. We think those can create real value to WonderFi shareholders and to our 1.6 million client accounts as well. As you mentioned, with respect to Australia, we really think expanding our platforms into new markets, is a strong priority for us. We've built up a really strong balance sheet. We're in a position where we're profitable on a consolidated basis today, and that really will allow us to invest in growth. And so identifying other jurisdictions that we can have a presence in will be part of the long-term strategy. And, we think that WonderFi naturally has grown through M&A. We've acquired 6 companies over the last 2 years. And, we're always looking at ways in which we can, increase our growth and really expand more rapidly through M&A. And so we think about domestically really investing in our product, focusing on new products and services, investing in growth through additional marketing, and really looking to bring back as many users in this market cycle that we're in. We think that'll create trading volumes and revenues, in short order. Expanding into Australia this quarter is one of our top priorities. Launching our institutional desk and being in a position to capture volumes in a new market as quickly as possible is another priority. And then building off of that, really finding other jurisdictions where we can have similar success will really allow us to continue to grow. We think, our presence in Australia will open the doors to M&A opportunities in that market. And again, we think whether it's through M&A or organic growth, we're in a position where WonderFi will really, focus on growing our platforms across the board this year and beyond.
Awesome. Well, Dean, I know we're out of time. So if our listeners want to get in touch with you, are you on X, Twitter, or LinkedIn or anything like that? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. They can follow WonderFi for more information and understand, where we are as a business in real time. Bitbuy, CoinSquare, and anything else, they can just feel free to reach out to us through social.
Cool. Thanks, Dean. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. I had a great time. It's always great talking to you.
Likewise. Bye. Special thanks to 4Labs Digital for producing Web3 Deep Dive podcast. I'd also like to thank the sponsors behind Web3 Deep Dive. You can click the links in the show notes to learn more about each of the Web3 initiatives from these sponsors. Finally, thanks to the listeners for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you guys next time.